We rebounded. We responded to their offensive boards. We forced turnovers. We withstood a few runs, even when it felt like we were up. So there was one point I was like, man, we must be up 5, 6, 10. I looked up, it was a 1-point game, right? Like, continuing just to push. The second half especially, obviously with Giannis being out, they become a lot more unpredictable, right? You don't know. Ryan Rollins is talented. You got Gary Trent, Bobby Portis, Cole Anthony, Turner. Like, you know what I mean? You never know where the offense is going to come from. So being able to adjust, different coverages. So I'm really happy with the way, we played tonight.
Kenny's talked and everybody's talked about growing pains pretty frequently for the first 15 weeks of the season. What do you feel like you guys are figuring out in real time right now?
I think the biggest thing is, I was talking about it this morning, like our defensive identity, but also understanding that there's changes in it. We're more aggressive. I think we're second or third in turnovers forced. But when you are aggressive, you're more susceptible to offensive rebounds because you're out of place, backdoor cuts, but now it's how do you help the next person? How do you, we're figuring those things out. And on top of that, we got 3 guys playing, who are in their second year or in their first year. So, we're figuring that out, and they've been phenomenal, right? So, and then when you have the guys that have been back, we are elevating our games as well in different ways. And then offensively, continuing to play with pace, right? Get up the floor, and then we are stuck in the half court, playing in the half roll, setting screens hard. No one to stick a screen, wanting to get out of a screen, different things. So we're doing a lot of things, pretty well. We can obviously be a lot better. But for us to be 10-5 and feeling like we, quite frankly, haven't had, maybe one, I would say, maybe one game where I'm like, all right, I think that was the Detroit game, maybe. Outside of that, we even put together a full game. It's pretty not too bad. So I think we're 4th in offense and 8th in defense or something like that. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's not like there's room to grow, and we're that high. It shows the talent we have. It shows the commitment we have from everybody in the locker room with our 2 of our better guys being out, right? So that we're in a good place, and we're going to continue to get better.
Mike, we just talked to Sam Don, and he said on every flight you guys sit next to each other and kind of watch film. Well, he said sometimes he watches the show and you watch film.
Yeah.
When you guys go back and watch the film, what are some of the things that you're looking for that you guys end up discussing?
Well, for me, it started out with, because when Sam first got here, he wasn't really playing much. So it started out with me asking him what he sees and being honest with me. It's easy when you're a guy like myself to kind of be told you're doing everything amazing, right? But he's a guy who I've known since before I got to the NBA. And I'm like, Sam, what do you think? I should have passed this here? It's a bad shot here. What do you think we should do here? He's always honest, right? And I love that about him. That's kind of where our relationship has grown. And then once he started playing more, we started saying, all right, we could be better here, this, that. We have having those conversations. He's a guy that I can lean on. We can lean on each other, to be honest, and have those dialogues. And you see how it's helping everybody. It's not just him and I, what we're looking at on film. We're looking at how can we help Evan? How can we help Dre, J.A.? When Kenny says something in a film session, what do we see? Okay, cool. This is what he's talking about. Well, maybe we could do that. Just different conversations. Those are the things you want to have. And, having a guy like that, we sit on every flight, like you said, and watch film and go over things. And it's great to have that level of accountability from your peers and a guy that you're going to war with every night.
Has he ever given you feedback that you disagree with, and then turned into you guys argued over something?
I wouldn't say arguing, but we've definitely had points where he's like, no, Don, come on. And I'll be like, no, but that's what you need, right? You don't need like I said, you don't need a yes person. You know what I mean? You want teammates that want to be better. You want them to be better, right? And a lot of it too is we haven't had a situation like that as much. It's more so we already know. So if it's a bash, I'd be like, I'm tripping. You know what I'm saying? Or vice versa, right? You know what I mean? So when you have that level of accountability in yourself, and then you bring that to others, that's big time.
Donovan, kind of bouncing off that, when you do those things off court with your teammates and you're able to have the night like you had tonight, how much does building that chemistry at all times of the year play into it?
It's big time. Obviously with Sam, but then we all went out to LA to be around Ev, right? Dre, our young guys I basically kidnapped them for the summer, right? You know what I mean? And like I said, my biggest joy, obviously we have, great talent in the starting group and our role players, but my biggest joy is seeing Quan, Craig, and Tyrese and Jalen just hoop, because everything that we've worked on and talked about, and they put all the work in themselves, but just being around and kind of figuring that out, now you're seeing it come to fruition out there on the floor, right? That's my joy, right? That's what you do that, you do those things in the offseason. Obviously, to build camaraderie, and they're great people, but like also to say, hey, like we're gonna need you guys in these scenarios, and you're seeing them flourish and do a lot of really positive things, and that's what is special.
Going back to Sam just for a second, Kenny has talked about just the offense being a little clunky still, but his movement off the ball, being able to come
Changes
off screens,
everything.
all of these different things, he allows you guys to have like a release valve when it comes to just stagnation. What does that do for your guys' offense?
Well, I mean, if you have to account for somebody who's nonstop moving, I look at him in Max's, and I'd said like a Kyle Korver-ish. Like when I play with Kyle Korver, like sometimes I've run into him because I didn't know where the hell he was going. Right? Like he's just nonstop moving. But at the end of the day, some of our better games are with him because everybody's like looking around and trying to figure out where he's at. So now I'm able to get into the paint, hit the big. The big's able to finish because now they're over here. If they don't, as you saw tonight, they're playing in the zone. They're looking at me, Zoe and Ev, and then they forget Sam, and he hits 2, 3, or a 3 to get him right out of that zone. Like that changes the game. Even if I just point in his direction, you have to naturally respect that, right? And that changes that changes everything. Him, and then when Max comes back, it's the same thing, right? Like so, having a guy like that, and he knows that, and being able to have that level of IQ to kind of manipulate that and play around with that, I think is what helps us a lot.
You talked about just him holding himself to a high standard to a point where
Sometimes too
frustration
much, yeah.
comes out of that. He's talked about just having a different mindset when it comes to micro and macro for himself. How have you seen him grow mentally throughout that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a blessing and a curse, right? He got to this level by being that crazy, right? Like in a sense, but in the same token, you can't live there because it takes away from what you do best. And I think as you grow in this league, I don't know if he feels this way, but I mean, $40 million wherever he got definitely helps. He's being rewarded on what you do, and I'm not saying that to be funny. I'm serious. Like being rewarded by being a quote unquote maniac in the head, like it's like it's a pressure reliever, right? Like it's real life. You know what I'm saying? And that definitely helps. But also, he's the guy that puts the time in, the work in. So even though he does have those moments where he gets hard on himself, he puts the time in. So he sees the ball going over and over again. He doesn't have long spells where it's like he's going through it. Like he's consistently working, always in there, trying to beat me to the gym. And we talk about it all the time. But he puts the work in. So when you see nights like this, you see what he's doing. You see him being rewarded with the contract he deserves. Like, it's because of the work. It's because of what he does and what you guys don't see. So when you see him out here, he's flourishing.
Thank you. Specifically, Greg Porter Jr. coming off the bench. He's looked great the first 15 games of the year. What have you seen from his development?
He's another guy. He didn't leave Cleveland. Like, he was here. Like, he was here all summer and put a lot of work in him. He was always talented. We make the joke that his first bucket was over Nick Batum on a post-up on a fast break, like, as a rookie, undrafted rookie, right? Like that, Nick Batum's no slouch on defense and on a TV game at that, right? So you can tell he has no fear. And for him, learning how to be a pro and learning how to work and consistently doing it, taking time where you could be on a beach, could be in LA, could be in Miami, could be in New York, wherever he's from, could be back home. He's here in Cleveland, continuing to be in the gym and doing, what he needs to do in market to have nights like this, and you're seeing him, continue to take the steps, and that's what we need from him.
Last two, Chris and Spence.
Donovan, you've talked about it, and Kenny's talked about it, setting a certain standard that you're trying to reach. And what is that daily standard?
I think the first and foremost thing is like a championship mentality, right? Like, it's not going to be perfect, and that's okay. But every day we come in here to work. Every day, win, lose, or draw, we coming out there, and we're going to have nights where we play well. We're going to have nights where we play bad. But there's a standard of effort. There's a standard of energy. There's a mental. That's the biggest thing I've been talking to you about is the mental, intensity, being locked in, even when you're physically not there. We've had a rough stretch. I think that's the biggest thing because physically, we're talented, man. Like, we can compete with anybody in this league. But the next level is being able to push through that mental. And I think mentally that's what you want to see every single night, every single play. When you have a mistake, how do you bounce back from it, not continue to let it linger? So every night on both ends of the floor, whether it's offense, defense, whatever, you're mentally there, whether it's 50-50 balls, like whatever we're doing, you're mentally like, no, this is how I'm going to help the team win in whatever role that is for you.
Basketball is a team thing, obviously. It's not golf or tennis, but when it's Milwaukee against Cleveland, a lot of it is Giannis, Donovan, two of the
Yeah, I mean, I got a lot of respect for that dude, man. Like, he's a Hall of Famer. He's a championship guy. And it's just one of those things where you want to beat, a guy, they want to beat the best. And he feels the same way. He brings it. Doesn't matter. We don't laugh and joke, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, once the game's over, I'm cool with his brothers. I'm cool with him. But when you're out there, man, it's war. Like, you want to go at each other. And when you have a guy that embraces that, every night, not just against me, but when you want to go out there and I want what he has. We want a ring, right? Like, and that's the ultimate respect, is challenging each other, right? That's the biggest thing. So, and that's with everybody. It's not just him, but it's one of those things where we're in the same division, same conference or whatever. So, every night, and it's trying to go out there and be the best.
First three off the bench for you guys was Lonzo, Dean, and Craig. Obviously, you've already addressed, but together, just seems like they're the make the right play guys. And defensively, I mean, even Lonzo at the end of the third quarter had that one steal. Dean swinging it over to Sam, all that stuff. Like, when you have that kind of IQ on the floor together, how much does that help?
I mean, it makes life easy, right? Like, you, as a coach too, you don't have to over coach. You can kind of let Zoe go out there and kind of ring lead. I think he's taken that over, right, on both ends of the floor. I think Dean has always been that security blanket for us defensively, rebounding, cutting, different things. So I think it makes everybody's life, makes my life easier. We can switch, we can be encouraged if we need to. There's a level of aggression, and you don't have to. You have to think. You know what I mean? Well, you obviously do, but you don't have to think as much. You know that guys got your back. Guys are thinking the game the right way, and then you see what happens on the break. Like, Zoe's pushing it, allowing us to run and making plays and making the game easy for everybody.
How do you see Zoe and CP working together and starting to develop that chemistry in the backcourt?
Well, I think being around Zoe is just going to help CP naturally, right? Like, he's just by watching what he does, by being out there with him, he's going to put CP in great spots. Defensively, CP's learning how to be in the gaps more, using his athleticism, right? You're seeing Zoe, who's really talented at doing that. Like, you're just learning just from watching, from being out there. Little techniques, little different things, and that's what you want from a guy like Zoe. That's what we need for him to come in here and be like, hey, this is what I see, this is what I can do, and lead by example.